Yeah, hi everyone, and welcome back. So, today we are going to discuss the next step. And earlier in our lectures, we discussed about the lifecycle hook method in Angular, and we discuss in it into a very deep manner. So, today we are going to see the practical use and how to implement these lifecycle hooks in your Angular application. So, first and foremost, we will start with ng on init method, and we will see means where we can use it and what is the use case in your application where you can use ng on it method. So first we are going to see what is ng on it lifecycle hook. So ng on it is a lifecycle hook in Angular that runs after the component is constructed and its input are initialized, but before the view is render. It means that once your component in Angular is constructed fully and its all input properties are initialized, then ng on it method get invoked, and it is invoked automatically by Angular, so you don't need to invoke it like manually by calling any method. It will be invoked like internally by Angular, but it will invoke before the view is render. So it makes a perfect scenario where you can use the use case of it. Okay, yeah. So like we will discuss the use case later, but now let's see when the ng on it will be called. It will be called just after the constructor runs. When the constructor method calling will get finished. Second, when your at the input, all the properties will be initialized and bounded. ngOnInit will be called after when your Angular setup for that particular component will be done, then ngOnInit method will be called. So once the constructor runs, once input properties are bounded, once Angular has done the setup for that component, then Angular will call ngOnIt method, which makes the use case now when you can use ngOnIt to fulfill your requirement in your real Angular project. So for example, let's say that you have a dashboard. When you loads your Angular application, you got the first page. In that, you have a sort of table which is showing up some data in a tabular form. So from where these data are coming? Might be it is coming from backend where any external APIs are getting hit, or might be from any database, right? So so this is the perfect use case when you open your Angular application and in the first page you have some data to show. Then you can use this ng on it to fetch the data from any external API, and you can then render those data in your HTML. So first use case can be fetch data from API. It ensures that component is ready before making your HTTP call. Second use case, it can be used as a subscribe to subscribe any services where you can use the observer or subject. Let's say that if there is any change in the data and you have already subscribed to that particular subject or observer, then always you will get updated data. So this is the one use case. The third use case can be at the time of setup logic. Let's say that you want to do a default loading, or you want to initialize some state at the setup, then you can perform or you can use this ng on it. The fourth use case can be call methods using at the rate input decorator, because at the rate input values are ready. Okay, so these are the some use cases where you can use ng on it, like lifecycle hook method. Now I want to discuss with you like constructor versus ng on it. So this is basically a very important question which come to my mind. So that's why I thought to discuss with you, because I have seen that in the interview, when you're giving interview on Angular, then this is a basic question but very important question. What is difference between constructor and ng on it? So which call first, constructor or ng on it? So what is the use of these? So first difference can be constructor is used to inject the dependencies, but ng on it method is used to run logic after binding. or after your component is constructed. Second point, constructor called before binding, ngOnIt called after binding. So it means that if you have any scenario in your application where you have to write some logic before binding, then you can go with the constructor. If you have a requirement where you have to write a logic after binding, then you can go with ngOnIt. Third difference, don't use for heavy logic. I mean that constructors are don't use for heavy logic, but ngOnIt is used to write safe like initialization logics. Okay, so this is a basic but very important question. First of all, when your component loads, constructor will be called first, and then ngOnIt method will be called, right? Yeah. So this is some like theory part I covered. Now let's dive down directly to the practical, and let's see to implement where we can use this ngOnIt method. So for that we can directly jump to our like visual code where we have one Angular application. In our last lecture I have like discussed very important like questions, I mean very important topics in Angular. If you have not visited my last lecture, then I can like suggest you go and watch all the other lectures. So today we will see how to implement ngOnIt. So for that, let's take a scenario where you have a user profile. Okay, so user profile means there is some information of user which you want to show when your component get loads. Let's say that you have a user profile component which get loads, then you want to show that user information in your HTML. So for this purpose, you can use ngOnIt. Okay, yeah. So this is my demo, right? This is my demo folder. So let me go to this demo folder first. Mhm. And here I want to create one new component. Okay, for that we can use ng, or you can write generate or g component fully, or c, and then you can provide the component name. Here user profile is my component name. So I have created one component with user profile name which consists of four files: css, html, spec, and ts. Right? In the ts, let's say I have a ngOnIt. Okay, I have ngOnIt method. Now this ngOnIt method will get called by Angular. Okay, so I don't need to call this method manually, but this method will be called uh, yeah, so this method will be called by Angular automatically, right? And if you have a use case that once your user profile component get loads, you want to do some API call, external API call to fetch some data, then you can you can write that logic inside ngOnIt, because once your component is fully initialized or loaded, then ngOnIt is the first lifecycle hook which will get called. Okay, and then you can render, in your HTML. So for this I'm going to use a service layer also. So let me create one folder with name service, and inside this service we are going to create one service ng generate service. I'm going to create user service. So this is a service class or service layer where you can do a API call. Okay, you can do HTTP API call, you can call external APIs, and then you can fetch the data, okay, from that API, right? Yeah, so here I have one method, let's say get user method, which is returning an observer. So let me import this. So this is returning one observer, and it has let's say return. Yeah, so it has some return okay, return of and here I'm returning an object. So let me quickly import this from rxjx, and let's say I have one id with one name, might be another property as address. All right, yeah. So these are some user information I have. Yeah. So here we can use do an HTTP call also, or we can call any external APIs. But for this demo purpose, I'm not going to do any external API call from the service layer. So if you want to learn how to do like external API call from your Angular application, then you can write it in a comment. I will bring out a new lecture for that also, where I will show you how to write in Angular or how to do a API call in Angular. But for this demo purpose, I'm going to mock this user information in this service layer. But you can consider that this method is calling an external API which is returning this user information like ID, name, and address simply, right? Yeah. So this user information I have mocked, and this will return, this get user method will return this information. Now let's move to the user profile. Yeah. So here, this is my component. So I need to inject the user service. So for that, I have one constructor, this constructor, and this constructor. In this constructor properties, I mean in the parameter, I am injecting the user service class. And this I am going to use, let's say this dot user service dot get user dot subscribe. I'm going to use a subscribe, and this like this dot user. All right. So this dot user is okay, so I have to declare this user. So what it is doing, it is simply calling this ngOnInit method, is calling this get user method of this service class, and then I have done subscribe, and then it will return this user, and then I'm storing this user to this dot user. Okay. So now this user property has the data which is there in this service class like ID, name, and address as an object. Now I want to display this user information or render this user information in my HTML. So for that I have this. So let me put a header, let's say user profile page, something like this, and let me put some paragraph again. Here I will put like ng if. So why I'm putting ng if? So first we are going to check if this user has some object. Okay, and then let's put a strong tag for making it a bold, and this is name, right? And in the name, I will do interpolation. Okay, with the interpolation, I'm going to show the user dot name. Yeah. So similar manner, I'm going to copy paste this line for displaying the address information of this user. So this will be address, and again this is address. All right. Yeah. So this is my simple HTML where I'm checking if user has some object. I mean, it has some value. Then simply display user dot name and user dot address. This is my template, right? And this is my TS file. So in this, okay, yeah, and I have one service class, this one. So here I am using ngIf. So I need to import common modules also. So let me do common module. Yeah, now it's look fine. User service. Okay, this is ending here. This is ending here. Hmm. This closes here. Okay, and again I have to close this. Yeah. So now this is my ngOnIt method. Okay. So let's run this and let's see the output first. So yeah, let's go to this. Okay, so here you can see, I think I have not loaded this page. Let me save this HTML, or let me rerun this. Better. Mm, ngServe. Okay, already something running. I will use different port. So now we are using 62225. Okay, okay. So I got the error. So yeah, so here you can see that it is not displaying because my demo component is loading. From demo component, I need to load my user profile. All right. So I need to use this selector, app selector of this inside my demo HTML. Here, let me put some lifecycle demo. All right. And here I can use the selector of user profile. So what it will do, it will import this user profile. It will load this user profile component inside my demo HTML from demo component, right? Now let's see, run this. Okay, I can see user profile page, but still I cannot see the data. Let me see what's wrong now. Username, user address, username, user address. This dot, this is correct. This is correct. This is data. Okay, let me save this. Mhm. It means it is not loading this, but it is not loading user info. Okay, I think there is some mistake in this ng on it logic. Okay, this is user service dot get user subscribe. Let me do some changes. Data. Okay, data, and let keep this as any. Okay, now arrow key, and this is started this dot user data. Okay, let me use like this. Save this. This dot user subscribe is already done. Observer any. Okay, we are returning this from here, and then it should go to this user service. Okay, everything looks good to me. Let's do one thing. Let's do one thing. uh, what we can do, we can add some console here. Yeah, yeah, so like this is good actually. When we got some error, then we need to investigate. Yeah, so this makes our learning more good. Yeah, so no worries, we will find it quickly. So let me see, json dot stringify, because this should come as an object, right? So we will see what we are getting inside this. Okay, console, let me hit this. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me close all the terminals and I will use a new terminal. Then ng sub 4200 user profile page. Okay, it means this is the error. Actually, this is not the correct spelling of ng on it. I think so. Ng on init. Yeah, you can see. Ng on nint. Yeah, so this is the correct life cycle hook. Okay, so, or what we can do, so or we can implement simply for more surety, you can implement this ng on it something. Okay, or yes, this you can do, implement ng on it interface, or simply you can write ng on init. Yes, this is the correct spelling actually. Yeah, so sorry, so there was some typo. Now let's see, because Angular was not able to recognize this, so Angular was not able to call this lifecycle hook. Okay, yeah, so actually this is a good learning. Yeah, now you can see we got getting this logs also, and here you can now it must display. Okay, still it is, oh yeah, so we are getting name and address, right? Yeah, so in this way you can see that how we can use ng on it. Let's say that you have some scenario where you want to load some data after your component get constructed. Then in this manner you can use ng on it lifecycle hook, and you can see that I have not called this method like manually, right? Angular is doing for this. And here the typo was we are not able like we have not provided the correct name of this, so that's why it was giving us yeah, so like Angular was not able to recognize, so Angular thought that there is no lifecycle hook method is there, so that's why this method was not getting called, right? Yeah, so like I hope you got the idea how to use this. Okay, and also and also one more thing I want to show. So for that if you want to implement interface, then you can directly use on init also. Let me show you here. Okay, so you can simply implement on init like this. Now Angular, so if we will not add this method, then Angular will show you an compile time error. Okay, it will say you to override the on init method, ng on it method, because we have implemented this interface. Earlier I have not implemented this interface, that's why I have to hard code and add it. But the good practice is in your real application is to implement with this interface, so that it will be make sure that a compiler will make sure that you have to override this ng on it with the correct name, right? Yeah, so like I hope you got the idea. In the next lecture we are going to see how to practically implement this ng on change and also nd to check and all this method we will see in our next lecture. Thank you and have a nice day.